Kia ora. Good evening. Thanks, Mark, for this kind presentation. Thanks to all of you for being here, and to the New Zealand Institute of Architects for having me. It's a great honor to be somehow representing this important architect in New Zealand. The title of the lecture, as you can see, is Form Follows Courtesy. And the reason why of this idea of courtesy, for sure you can recognize this antithetic idea to the famous mantra form follows function. So why I believe that courtesy nowadays is quite important, because we live in a world where vulnerability is every time increasing, no? So at least in countries like mine, we just live a social upheaval, very important social upheaval. There are in other countries, even in developed countries, no, the solitude, for instance, is a great problem. And I think architects can, through modest approach, through buildings, help in this battle against vulnerability. And courtesy, that is one of the most important humane attitudes, that is part of the culture, it's not natural, teach us how to make people feel welcome and valued. And the importance of courtesy that teaches us how to behave when we are hosts, and at the same time teach us how to behave when we are guests, no? And in this sense, buildings, like people, can be guests, no? When they arrive to a place where there were no such a building, no? So they arrive like foreigners. And at the same time, buildings embrace, no, people and their experience. So we can, as architects, enrich their experience if we practice courtesy. Courtesy, in a more profound sense, teaches when we touch, when we do not touch, how to treat the adversary, how to treat the loved ones, our enemies even, no? But always with, let's say, with this sense of humanity. So in this sense, I believe, and this is what I hope I can share with these projects, is this, like the idea that building must be perfect guest and perfect host at the same time. One example, for me, is one of the best examples of this double condition is the building, the Palazzo Rucellai in Florence, that probably you know, which is not one of the most beautiful buildings of Florence, but also integrates itself in the surroundings through the proportions, through the measures, through a sort of silent attitude. But at the same time, it is a face, no? It is a face that not only through proportions, through measures, integrate, but also through actions, signifies some values of the owners of this building, no? That has to do actually with providing shelter, not just inside the building, but also outside it. So the facade of the building is a face, not as a boundary, but as a territory to be inhabited. So I will show you now 9 manners to be guest and host. So there are 9 projects. Some of them focus much more in strategies to become welcome foreigners in new sites. Others are most focused in this idea of embracing, of welcoming people. And there are others that I think achieve a better balance between two. Of course, architecture is not about this. There are many aspects that architects integrates in the project, no? So we'll talk also about technology, how the structure can characterize architecture and so on. But if there is something behind all the projects, it's this idea of courtesy, and I will also talk about the tools or the strategies to practice this idea of courtesy that I can advance. That is the discipline of translation. So you will hear me speak many times about translation. I hope that during the presentation at the end, it will be better understood this idea, no? Because translation, that is actually a discipline, tell us how to interpret, how to read the signals of others. And translation is a medium for intercultural communication. And this is something that applies for sure to architecture as well. So one of the first projects I will show you is this pavilion in Shenzhen called Give Me Shelter. The second one is this public library of Constitución, that is a building done after a huge earthquake that we had almost in the same year as you had. This pavilion to celebrate the 120 years of the School of Architecture that was to be placed both in Santiago and Valparaíso. The School of Design, this house done with containers called Caterpillar House, this other one in the southwest part of Chile called Tuwai House. This school for children with different abilities near Santiago. This house by the sea called Jenga House, you will understand why it has this name. And finally, this modular hotel in Patagonia. So the first project is a pavilion and was a competition, and the brief of the competition was to, this earthquake just happened, and all the architects that were participating there were asked to show the projects for the reconstruction. And as you know, to rebuild a city after an earthquake takes no more than 5 years. 5 years is the minimum. So by then there was no such a project to show. So we thought that in this case we could, let's say, translate or rewrite the idea of the shelter, no? And if we go to Google and we put the word emergency, shelter, etc., we will find these objects, no, that are mattresses, water tanks, traffic cones, and emergency lamps. That all has to do with the idea of the security, and the other has to do with the idea of relief. No, the mattress is the relief of tiredness, and water for sure the relief of thirst. So with these elements, we reconfigure these elements in a way out of the ordinary in order to create new spaces for socialization and also to create signals of welcoming. The places for new socialization is a huge bed at the center of the pavilion done with mattresses, and the signals of welcoming are traffic cones transformed in Chinese lamps. No? So that was a way of having a conversation with the Chinese, of Chilean having a conversation with the Chinese culture. So here we're seeing a picture of the entrance. So this is the welcoming sign. The huge mattress, because in these shelters, we wanted to emphasize the idea of the shelter as a new beginning, no? Not as a negative emotion, not just the trauma that for sure exists, but also the opportunity for a new beginning, for new socialization. That is what happened actually in the shelters, no? At the same time, in the context of a biennale, relief is always welcome, no? Because biennales tend to be very tiring as well. So here we see a video that shows better all the experience that users have when go there. Here we work with a graphic designer, also with a musician. We were not able to show finished project, but projects that were just only in the design stage by then. So those projects could be seen in those screens. and there were some movies, Chilean movies on the background in order to give context. All the things that can be seen, even in these movies, are related with the idea that whether there is a catastrophe, the first solution happen with things that are at hand. Well, the second project is the Public Library of Constitución that, as I said in the introduction, is a project that is formed part of the reconstruction of the city. That actually was one of those projects that take more than 5 years. And is part of a huge master plan led by Elemental, and they invited me to do the library that is in front of the square. So the earthquake that was huge not also destroyed the houses, but also flooded the city because it was with a tsunami as well. So this is the situation how it was, no? So destroyed totally everything. And so we thought that there are many things in relation with this project. First, that for sure should be a welcoming project. So we took reference from the Palazzo Rucellai. So the facade will become, as I said before, not the line, not the boundary, but the territory to be inhabited, no? A territory of welcoming. On the other hand, the city decided to rebuild everything with timber because this is the area where all the timber is produced in Chile, most of the timber. But for us, it was very important to take in consideration the idea that construction in timber needs to be, it's not like concrete, it's not like steel, so it needs protection, needs to be care. And varnish and paintings are not, no, they're not enough. So for us, it was very important that the form itself helped for the preservation of the building. So that's why I'm sharing with you this idea of the pagoda. No? That's the origin of the pagoda. That's why it has many roofs in order to protect, self-protect. No? The other aspect that was also important was the idea that everything needed to be understood, that the destruction needed to be understood. And why is that? Because I believe, not just me, but this is an idea of Aristotle's, no? That in the process of beauty, let's say in the aesthetic phenomenon, the understanding is significant, no? And it was important that the building was, let's say, understood. So like in this cathedral, that one can understood how the loads go from the roof to the ground, no? So everything is understandable there. And the other consideration in terms of becoming good guests there was to build with the technologies that were there, not just imposing new technologies, but trying to find a balance between industrialized timber and crafted timber. And also we refer or we translated this way of drying wood in order to create an atmospheric condition in the library. So this is the kind of quality that the workers can do there. No, it's like an organ, not as beautiful as this one. And in terms of the configuration of the section and the plan, was important two things: to acknowledge that the main remainings were the trees, because everything was destroyed, and that there was a flood. So there was the remembering of this tsunami. So in terms of the section, everything is settled 1.6 meters over the ground level, no? And the facade, like in Rucellai Palazzo, is a face, no? It's a face that communicates, that welcome, that create these micro shelters in the facade where when the passerbys can see the new arrivals there and also enter to the building. In terms of the section, it's quite important that the roof has a huge perimeter, so it's the result of 3 naves. And why is that? Because it allows the light to come from everywhere in order to create an homogeneous space in terms of light. So therefore, readers do not get tired, because when you get different amount of light, the muscle of the eye works a lot and gets tired. So that was very important also to create the better conditions for reading in terms of light, also in terms of acoustic, and also in more, let's say, unconscious way, being up 1.60 meters over ground level. And in relation with the idea of self-preservation, as you can see, the roof overpass the border here, so the rain never gets directly into the timber parts. And since this is just one single space, furniture plays an important role creating micro spaces inside, as you will see later in the pictures. So here you can see then, or understand how the loads are solved, how the horizontal movement are resolved by this triangulation of the timber. No? So I think this is the most important feature of the project. Even though, let's say, 90% is timber, this is concrete in order to protect it, because it was regulated. So there are 2 ways of entering to the main level of the project, through this ramp, and also through this staircase. It's a sort of micro auditorium here for storytelling for the children. So as I said before, everything is reinforcing, oriented toward the square that is here. So every nave points toward the square, and change the altitude, no, when it gets closer to the glass cases. The lamps that are here play not a role in terms of the lighting, but most in terms of communicating that this is not an institutional space, but most is closer to a domestic space, no? Bien, this third one, the third project is a pavilion that, as I said before, was committed to celebrate the 120 years of foundation of the school. So on the one hand, I asked myself, what is the ideal project to celebrate something? And for sure, it's a monumentum. No? Monumentum are celebratory buildings. No? But on the other hand, this project needed to be placed later elsewhere. So therefore, on the one hand, it's a monument, but on the other hand, it's let's say, a nomad building. No? It's fragile. So what I invented was to translate the flexibility or the mobility of the sea chair, make it bigger, so it's 5 meters high, so it's a big chair of 5 meters high that can be transfolded, storage folded, and transported later by 3 people. And when it is placed that way, let's say the stability, is better, and at the same time create a space for exhibition in what is similar to the buttress of the cathedral, and then a gathering space inside. The roof will be finished with a great balloon that you will see in the picture, an inflated balloon. So these are plans that shows the project placed in the campus where I teach, and this in a building in ruins in Valparaíso. Valparaíso is the city port of Chile, quite similar to Wellington. So we will start seeing pictures here first in the school. This is inflated balloon. It's inflated with a machine this big that can be on for days with a very low energy consumption. And now we're seeing picture of the project in Valparaíso that I think work much better. You will see why. For me, it works very well because of this. This is the old building with the retaining elements and that are similar to this one, so that somehow there is a conversation here going on. No, this can be seen. This was a surprise because I didn't know where the project was going to be placed. No, but at the end, what happened is that there is a kind of rewriting of these structures, no? In timber, here in steel, here in timber. So there is a clear conversation between, let's say, the medium of the input, let's say, and the medium of arrival. And this is the last picture of the project. I like it very much because clearly resonate with the monuments of Boulay, in a more distorted or ruined way. Well, this is the School of Design. That was a competition for professor of the school, where actually the same pavilion was built. And the question here, the first question is how to put something that have a dialogue with the existing hacienda house without doing a new hacienda house that looks like a hacienda house but done in steel or other materials. So what I thought that was important, because this hacienda house somehow is in the mind of all the people that have been either student, teacher, etc., is the fact that there is a courtyard, that there are elements that are repeated, like say doors, windows are always the same, are like pieces of a catalog. And one of the most important for me was the idea that there are measures that are singular, but can be found elsewhere in South America, where all these hacienda houses were placed by the Spaniards, that are restricted by construction, by the measure of the timber elements, that gives measures of 6 meters wide, 30 meters long, and 6 meters high. So I thought that a way of creating this dialogue was translating those characteristics to this new building. The courtyard, the repetition of windows and doors with the same size, and also the measure. So you will find in the new building rooms that has the same proportion, the same measures of the old hacienda. The materiality reinforces the difference between the interior and the exterior, so that's why curtain steel is in the exterior and timber in the interior. And there is a podium that somehow connects also the project with the rest of the new construction on the side, no? That all of them has these concrete podiums, or either podiums or pavements. So this is the courtyard, no? With this elevated square that is over one of the rooms that has the 6 by 6 meter by 30 meters long that you will see here. That by the dimension are flexible space. Actually, in the chapel of the old hacienda, where we have the juries, but not also the juries, but also funerals, for instance. So it's a space that is flexible because of the measures. Here we see a video that shows more or less how it works.
Fíjense la forma de las manos y las formas de los talones. ¿Ya? Es así.
All the bones of the project are shown inside, no? The structural elements, even in the dividing walls, you can see the bones, the skeleton. Well, this is a different project that poses different problems or different questions regarding how to develop with a site. And the main characteristic, as many sites actually in Chile, is that there is a slope. As you know, Chile is a long country along the Andes, so everywhere you can find site with a slope. It's very typical, no? It's not like in Argentina, everything is flat. So that here poses the problem how to deal with that. One possibility for sure was to cut the slope, but we didn't want that. So what we did was actually to blend the project when it touches the slope in order not to cut that much and produce, as you can see here, you will understand better later, these inclined elements become bedrooms, strange bedrooms that are like skylights at the same time, and also the entrance, one entrance. This house was done with containers, and the containers, you have work or you have seen many here, that sometimes you put it like this, but what we did here was create an intersection, interstition, no? Therefore, this interstition allows for two things: to create spaces with many fronts in order for cross ventilation and lighting, but at the same time allow us to have the circulations in between, and also to have two kinds of way to dealing with the landscape, one through the boxes and one in between the boxes. So this is the plan of the upper floor. This is the entrance. It's a scheme, it's a spine scheme, no? Where master bedroom is here. That is the result of the addition of those containers. Here we have the circulation, and those are these strange bedrooms, no? That are at the same time skylights and bedrooms. The swimming pool is also another container. And below, we have all the public spaces that are the result of a steel chassis that support what is on top. So those are the bedrooms, and this is the entrance. I built myself this house when in a time they didn't have that much to do, so I actually thought what to do in order not to get bankrupt. And I decided the easy way to do something was to work with something that is controlled, that can be repeated, that can be economic, not just in construction, but also in design. That is very important, no? So for me, it was a very good experience out of a problem that I think I later apply in project, not necessarily done with containers, no? So this is the kind of experience that you get inside, where the landscape is framed in two ways, no? In the interstitial space and also in this kind of camera spaces, no? Here you will see a video of the Travis band, the Scottish band Travis, that went and played in the house. I think shows quite well how it works.
Seems to be going right. So low, Why'd you have to be so low? You're so, you'd be waiting in the sunset.
But the house itself is really, really incredible. It's done by someone who knows what they're doing and who knows this idea of framing not just the house and the experience within the house, but framing the landscape. As you look through the house, there are every wall is a painting, a landscape painting. So you're looking out at landscape, but it's alive. It's a real moving painting. And then within the house, the man's art collection is possibly the most mind-blowing art collection I've ever seen in my life, and I've seen a lot. I think the idea of art is just people who make things. I don't think of art as being painting, poetry, literature, music. It's just one thing. And mostly people who would paint also write literature and also sing, or they do it all. It's just about making stuff, making a mark. You can trace that right back to the people who first put their hands on a cave and blew pigment over and left there. It's about leaving a mark, and I think we're part of that tradition still.
Well, the other project is called Two-Way House, and the name comes from the fact that the plan itself is a diagram composed of two epsilon letters. I will explain why. The condition of the site was the following, that we have a lake, very long lake, with the sides perpendicular to the lake. Therefore, the views were on this direction. No? On the other hand, the sun comes from the back. And the other condition of the site that was full of native trees that we wanted to protect. So this shape was the best diagram to accommodate these requirements. First, because the two-way shape allows us to enter the sun that comes from the back of the view during the entire day, having rooms with double orientations, somehow like in the caterpillar house, but in this case not in a spine scheme, but in a two-way scheme. We couldn't avoid cutting trees, and we also were able to place the kitchen at the core of the house, no? Becoming the meeting point. And this orientation also allows us then to have the longest view. In terms of how to deal with the slope, we adopt a similar scheme to the caterpillar house, the previous house, where part of the house fits the slope, which is that part, and the other one, they say, not cantilever is not the right word, but get horizontal, no? So it's in a similar condition. The house is entered through here. We passes through this courtyard that allows us to see the lake for the first time. Then we get here into the kitchen, and then we get down to the living room and the master room. So here you can appreciate the plan. So this part of the house is for guests. This is the master bedroom, the living room, and the kitchen here with the courtyard that I mentioned in this point. So the house is a kind of snake that is with two heads in between the trees. And this story is quite interesting and speaks about the relationship or the good conversation with engineers. We had a problem that we thought that in order to do the house more cheap, we thought to make it in steel, but actually it was much more expensive. So we had to rethink the house. We didn't have that much time because the client wanted to start quite soon, as always. So we sent the plans to the engineer, and the engineer sent us back this structural elevation with timber that were amazing. We will never think of doing the house like this. So it was so out of the ordinary. But on the other hand, is the natural way of building a balloon frame, no? So I asked the collaborators to do a model just of the structure, and this appeared. That was fantastic because at the same time, the boundaries of the house were not just totally transparent, but a kind of filter that could enter shadows into the house, so the house could change during the day in the same way that space was changed outside with the trees and the leaves. So we took the decision to cover only the necessary parts of the house, and the rest to keep it like that, placing a glass in front of the timber. So therefore, it becomes a sort of curtain wall with timber. And this is the result. It was designed by the engineer, actually, the facade, not us. Of course, what remained where we used to have let's say, the doors, etc. So it's like the phantom of the previous work. Now we see another video done by Channel 4 from Great Britain that visit the house with a journalist that is quite enthusiastic. So maybe sometimes too much, but I think explain the house quite well.
Tucked virtually unnoticed into the forest is the aptly named 2Y House. A timber structure made from locally sourced wood that straddles the sloping ground perfectly.
Now that is amazing. Beautiful. And its entire form comes about because it's working with nature. It's hugging the hillside.
Following the natural grade of the land, it's supported on timber posts so as not to disturb the surrounding vegetation. And the windows are positioned to make the most of these spectacular views.
Oh, wow. But look at that. And it's such a dynamic piece of architecture, because from this position, everything starts to cascade down the hillside to the lake and the view. And this bit is phenomenal. It's a brilliant piece of design. It's a light well with staircases either side. But what I love about it is that the framing for the windows could have been vertical, but instead, the architects have put it all at an angle. It's just emphasized the cascade of the house. And then at the bottom of this staircase, boom. Just opens up into the most fantastic kitchen, dining, and living space.
And it's here in the main living area where this timber home comes to life. With windows on 3 of its 4 walls, the open plan space is flooded with natural light.
This is my favourite part of the entire house. And what a wonderful space. It goes up about 5 metres and draws your eye out across the lake and up to the top of the trees. It's architectural tranquility at its best. It's actually breathtaking. The architecture is so good, it actually makes the natural environment better and more beautiful. And I'll tell you what, it's very rare I say that. It's that good.
You see. Well, this another project is a bit different. It's also a project with a great perimeter. It's a center. It's actually a school for children with different abilities, located in the outskirts of Santiago, in a neighborhood quite tough, with settlements, informal settlements, and also with some drug dealers around. So I think that was very, for sure, a very important input how to deal with that. And on the other hand, we have to do or to create a proper condition for the children to develop, no? So to develop with some sort of kind of where they could exercise freedom. We started the project full of prejudices. We thought that we were supposed to do everything easy for the children, and we were to talk to the director, an old woman, that said, no, you don't have to worry for the children, but you have to worry for the teachers, because the teachers are who are really stressed here. So you have to take care of them more than the children. And for us it was very striking, so we thought that somehow we were free, let's say, to experiment, because she said that the children needed to be prepared for life, no? To go outside, take the metro, hopefully work, etc. So we would somehow architecture could train them. So I have been always obsessed with the work of the Basque artist Chillida, that you are familiar with, but he's from the Basque country where it's full of ports, and he used to work to draw the ports and take inspiration from there. And what happened in ports, that ports are places, restricted spaces, no? Where you have to create the bigger perimeter in the minimum surface, no? That is what happened here, no? You have a minimum area and maximum perimeter. And this idea of creating or excavating a maximum perimeter allows for some things to somehow, well, in this case, to create a boundary, no, that is clearly different to the interior. On the other hand, if we translate this in a project of architecture, no, we can think of those being rooms with different orientation, and also rooms that are separated, or classrooms separated from one another, in order to avoid noise. That is one of the problems of this with these children. And also this idea of producing a sort of labyrinth where we can move around freely. So the project took that ideas in consideration, did a translation of this. So afterwards, we have this sort of wall city, no, with a regular exterior with corridors along the walls that protect the school from the outside. But at the same time, even though it is a hard neighborhood, we thought that was important to have point of connections. So one point of connection is where the teachers are, that is here. The other one is where the chapel is. So this is like in Cementerio San Michele in Venice, where you can enter the cemetery. This is not the cemetery, but we can enter the complex, let's say, through the chapel. So those are point of connection with the city. And then inside, we have this labyrinth interior where the classrooms are separated by these interstitial spaces that allows, a bit like in Caterpillar House, to enter, to have frames through the interstitial space, but also to enter light to the inner corridors, no? So the inner corridors are always affected by natural light. So we arrive finally at this geometry that shows what I was mentioning, the contacting point with the city, no? These three, actually the sport facility is another one, and shows how this is organized. It is organized around these groups of classrooms that moves further closer to the swimming pool, the climatized swimming pool to treat children. So the children with more disabilities, let's say, are here, connected to the bands and connected to the swimming pool. So that's organized, basically the plan going from the area of the teachers, that is a kind of oasis, towards the sport facilities and the swimming pool. We painted, as you can say, totally white, the project, because we thought that there was a lot of complexity already out of the light, the shadows, so it was not necessary to put, as usual, colors, no, that are supposed to be one of the strategies to treat spaces for children. We thought that the complexity was already there, so it was not necessary. It looks much complex than it is, but every piece is the same, but repeated like this, no? And sometimes we added these walls that are separated from the structure, so inside looks much complex than it is, and the corridor goes along in a very clear manner, no? There is a clear manner to move inside, and then you have this labyrinthic way inside. Here I wanted to highlight this idea, no, of because of the separation of the classroom, one can have the outer view and the outer light here in the corridors, no, that are connected to this. So here we see some pictures of the exterior. That's the tower of the chapel. It's a pity not having children here because the pictures were taken through the COVID, and afterward I wanted to go and take pictures, but it's hard because the children get so stressed and the director is very strict. So at the moment I have to go hidden or somehow. And here you can see the frontality of the classroom, that helps very well because they need to collaborate. So if there is a crisis here, the teacher that is there can assist and so on. Bien, this is a house in a protected zone in Chile, in a very nice place, beside this, this path done by Teresa Moller, who is a very good landscape designer, and the house is located in a site beside this that project that goes along the coast, but also has this protected zone. So we wanted the house not to touch that much, so we decided to put the house in 4 pillars, as you can see, and supported placed randomly in order not to understand very well what supports what. So to create a sort of unstable situation. And then we have beams on top and below. And the other thing that I thought was very important is that everything, the measure of everything is 1.2 meters. And it creates, like in the Jenga, no, a coherence, no, regardless of where you put the pieces, etc. Let's say the coherence or the integration is granted. So everything has this measure, even places for the toilets, etc. 1.20 meters is the minimum where you can place a toilet, a closet, etc., as you will see now. So this is the structure. It's a cyclopean structure. And so you will see later that there are subdivisions elements that also have these measures of 1.20, where the toilets are placed in order to become the walls that separate the bedrooms, no? That are done with timber. So those can be later taken, modified, etc. The other characteristic of the house that the bones are always visible. So this is like a, like a grid, no? It's like a ruin where you can see all the bones always. I don't have many pictures. I have some pictures from drone because it was finished recently. So as you see, all the structure is always visible. No? Everything has the same measure, 1.20 meters, those. The structural pillars, that's the scale of the elements. The house is, you enter the house through this bridge and then go under that staircase that is there. I have some videos that I shoot with my telephone. Sorry about that, they're not that good. And this is inside, where we are seeing the bathroom there. In front of every volume, there are a courtyard in the front of the toilets. And here, what I mentioned, or the structure is always visible. There is a double floor for all the heatings that are inside. There are acoustic panels. Well, and this is the last project. It's a hotel in Patagonia. It's a hotel that has the characteristic of being placed in a remote site where construction is quite difficult. So we thought to build it partly modular. And the other characteristic of the site is that there are no such architectonic reference to deal or to have a dialogue with, except those rodeo that are called in Chile medialunas, that are very interesting because they solve the structural problem with very tiny elements. So they are, let's say, the resistance is achieved through form and not through material. So taking that in consideration, we propose a project that is placed in this point, that is a circular that frames part of the territory without touching it. And as is like in this rodeo, is a structure that is infilled with modules that are the bedrooms. No? Those are modules that are bedrooms. No? The crane is placed on the center, the trucks come here, and the modules are taken to every part. So where there are no modules, we have the common areas. No? Like here, that is the entrance, the swimming pool that is over there. So it's a very simple project that has some consideration in relation with the idea of self-preservation. We said that in order to do a project that lasts in timber, we need shoes and a hat. So the shoes are those that are concrete elements, so that the timber never gets close to the humidity of the ground. And later we have this roof then that protects the rest of the house, the hotel. And those are the bedrooms that are done with CLT. And I think this is the last picture. I don't want to give you a mission, nothing like that. This is not a TED Talk. Just wanted to share my approach to architecture, that is some sort of conclusion after working for 30 years, and find that there are some, let's say, there is a north that is behind, even though project architecture is a very complex endeavor. There are many things, no? We are like movie directors, we work with many people, etc. But just as I said, what I wanted to share, that is a sort of north that goes always with this, with all these projects. So many thanks for coming and for your time.